and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I salute the flag of the state of New Mexico, to be a symbol of perfect friendship among united cultures.
I am going to need a mop.
Thank you. Yeah. We'll go ahead and do roll call.
Manuelito.
Here.
Kevin Mitchell.
Here.
Lynn Heeneman. Joe Manini.
Board members, we have our special meeting agenda. First, we have roll call, Pledge of Allegiance, New Mexico Pledge. 2, we have approval of agenda. 3, we have new business. We have A, board vacancy. 1, candidates presentation. B, approval of District 2 member replacement on Gallup McKinley County Board of Education for the remainder of the term, which is an action item. And then 4, we have adjournment. Is there a motion to approve the agenda? Thank you, Kevin. Roll call, please.
Yes.
Yes. Under new business A, we do have a board vacancy. I would like to do a little roll call and see if all the candidates are here. Do we have Tyson Ramon? Charles Long?
Here.
Thank you, sir. Cheryl Lynn Yazzie? Thank you. Sandra Jeff? Thank you. And Frida Joe? Thank you. We kind of did the same thing we're doing now. A year and a half, we did the same process when we, the board appointed Mr. Hitteman, and we're going to continue that same process that we used. 1 year? Wow. Thank you. So we have a list of candidates. We're going to go ahead and let them do their introduction. And then the board members have, they can ask 1 or 2 questions that I think they've prepared themselves, and we'll be asking those questions to each candidate. So since Tyson Ramon's not here, we'll move on to Charles Long. Could you please come up and introduce yourself? I'm sorry, yes, there is. I think we had a 5-minute intro.
Good evening, everyone. School board members, yeah. I'm not so yet Charles Long. We got it, Georgia, in Portugal, Nasha. I learned the Kadea, Aja, as a night, the Hindi, not on. Partners in the limit that he adjudication and the Shinsen. I don't do that. Lana, and wait up and have some the national show. Bush response, and in a nutshell, President or Vice President was Arjun National Show, the Kushina High. Chairman, a bunch of Shinish. I don't do Presidents from Lenny and Nature asked for a the Queen Ishi but Consendo for the National Solana High. I don't have in the Husky with I don't necessarily consent. But my name is Charles Long, and I come from what David Lee says from God's country. and Vicente chapter. I'm an official there representing that chapter. I've worked at the executive level of the Navajo Nation government. I've worked for chairman and several presidents. So I pretty much know what the issues are, and any issues that come up, I can work on those issues, familiar with the ways to deal with issues. One of the candidates, and it's good to be here. I guess when you get old, it's always good to be anywhere. Thank you. Wishing. Go ahead.
Mr. Menini?
I don't have my questions, so I enjoyed here today. Everybody wants to ask questions.
Okay, Glenn?
Priscilla.
Is it on? Thank you. I have a three-part question, sir. There are three things that the board has talked about this year is, in a sense, goals, things to strengthen, things to develop further, and I would like to ask your thoughts, ideas about how we can do these three things. And if you need me to repeat the three, that's fine. I'm breaking it into parts here. The first is how we can increase family involvement in the schools, and you can think of this both on the school level and the district level. Secondly, how we can help improve the academic performance of Navajo students, thinking we're particularly in Navajo territory here, and how we can help revitalize Navajo language. Those three areas. Your thoughts?
Okay. As far as parental involvement in education, I think this is a difficult thing to do. Not all parents are interested in supporting their children. There are a few parents, yes, that are interested in helping their children. Now, I've seen this at even Head Start program. We have a problem trying to get parents involved. And this is not to say they're not interested, but I think this is something that really needs to be addressed. I think the way to do it is to ask parents what role they should play and what are some of the things that they could do to have more parents involved in their children's education. And this is something that's going to be an ongoing problem. Somehow we have to have the parents buy in to the education of their children. And the second question was what needs to be done to strengthen what I've seen, in the Gallup McKinley County school system is that the area of learning, I guess, is something that needs to be looked at. Right now, we have kids that don't do too well. It's not because of the teachers, but I think it's because of they're not taught how to learn. They're told what to learn. This is what you need to learn, but we don't teach them how to learn. I've always said this at our local government. We need to teach our kids how to learn. And then the third question that was asked is Navajo language. This is also another difficult issue that the Navajo Nation is dealing with. One good way, and I think the most effective way to deal with that is be the example. That's how you get children to learn to speak their language. Right now, as you go to Window, to the Navajo Nation Council, all the deliberation is done in English. There's no council delegate that speaks Navajo. So you have leaders on one side saying, telling our kids, learn your language, learn your culture, but there's no example being set. And I think that's one thing that, even at the local level as chapter officers, we need to do that, set the example. And then also provide the opportunity for our children to learn how to speak our language, know our culture, our tradition. All that is slowly dying. And I guess the greatest thing that we can do to strengthen that is bring awareness to it. I remember talking to a school principal on the Arizona site, and she said one day in the school year they decided to have a culture day, and she told all the students, have this next week, and we want you to bring something that relates to your culture, that is part of your culture. But those students, I guess on that day, they brought things like, pictures of lowriders and all these other stuff, which is not Navajo culture. I think that shows that we've gotten away from that. And somehow we have to turn things around and let our children begin to speak their own language.
Thank you.
So I guess on the test case, they're still discussing how to do everything.
With something here. Since as a school board we deal with budget, what is your thought on return funds to the Navajo Nation and federally and state?
Thank you, sir. I think that's a big mistake, when you return monies to any funding source, because that demonstrates that you don't have a need. And I always believe that any monies you get, you ought to use. If you have to do budget transfers to ensure that those funds are used, then those are some of the things that we should look at. Make sure that the budget is expended, the money is expended within the time frame that is given to you.
I don't know how familiar you're with as far as our district, except for what you may read. But what is your thought on the transparency of our district?
Well, at this point, I think we need to work on that, transparency. You need to let parents and the general public know what is going on within each school. What progresses are made, the progress that is made by our children. One of the things I've learned working in Window was that we spend more money for freshmen on refresher course. And I think that says a lot about public schools, not only in this district, but other districts. We're not doing what we're supposed to do. And maybe it's because we're not transparent. We kind of do things behind doors, closed doors. And I think in order to make ourselves more transparent, we have to visit chapters that are within our districts, talk to them about what's going on in the school, what problems we face with children, and then at the same time offer solutions. This is what we're doing. This is to inform not only the parents and communities, but at least to get recommendations from parents on how to deal with some of the problems that the school district has.
What would your recommendation be on the legislative priorities for our district?
I think all your legislative priorities should be based on kids, getting our children educated, and at the same time providing funding to increase the knowledge of teachers. Even though you may have a degree, you don't know everything. And at a certain point in time, you need to make sure that the faculty and staff you have are up to par on their education.
My last question is, the issues that happened at Crown Point High School was very disappointing and upsetting. Our community of Crown Point still needs to heal. What recommendation would you have for our superintendent and our board to help in this healing process?
I guess the problem wouldn't have started. We talked about transparency a while ago. If the school board members were more transparent, I think a lot of times you see the problem before you, but you don't take action. I've seen that with the evaluation of the superintendent. We haven't found closure to it. We're still waiting as community members, parents, grandparents, and all that. And not only that, but the suspension that was made, we don't know why. And things like that, I think the governing body really needs to look at issues like that, and not to embarrass the schools, not to embarrass the teachers, the parents, the children. They need to be involved in ensuring that whatever the school board does or sees, that they see a problem, they handle it right away. I think that's probably pretty much the thing I would like to see in the school district.
Mr. Long, the impact aid that we have in McKinley County is hurting us. Do you have any ideas that we could improve this where the state does not get a certain percentage and it all comes to us? And my second question is, if so, how much a percentage do you think McKinley County should give back to the state?
Yeah, thank you for those two questions. I'm not sure if I understand the question. I don't know whether the problem is you have the impact aid monies or you don't have enough of it. But I think, the impact aid funds, the school district should get the entire fund, 100%. That has been always my position. It's going to take a lot of work the way I see it. But we're always going to have opposition from Bernalillo County. You know that's where the problem is. I thought of asking some of the people I know up there to divide up Bernalillo County so we won't have a huge county to deal with. But it's going to take a lot of work with our legislators to make sure that we get the monies, all of the monies, to our district. If not, I don't know what the percentage is that we're getting, about 55% maybe. And we would like to maybe get 95% if there's any concessions that need to be made. I would prefer to see that amount of money coming to our district.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much. Next candidate is Sherilyn Yazzie.
Good evening, Yate, school board, community members, Arat Nana chapter officials that Nothidigi, Yate Shea, Sherilyn Yazmin Shea, Hush Anazon Shnokia Ani Bashish Chin, Tobana Dashanella Hashdishi Dashache, Ehut Asan and Shne, Ara Ayasident Nashagi, A Mike Tiaklident Nasha, Shamarosha A Benny and Sherilyn Yazzie Olia. For a long time they worked here in Crown Point, New Mexico. Arat Nana, it's good to see a lot of old friends. I think you can have a class reunion here, home of the Eagles. Woohoo! Kidding. Anyways, it was really good to see a lot of good classmates here this evening. But that's the introduction from me. For those of you who don't understand, I'm pretty sure you have the cultural concept that we do introduce ourselves traditionally. Where do I start? Class of 1991, home of the Eagles. That was the best year ever. Did my co-valedictorian speech in 2 minutes. I think I timed myself 2 to 3 minutes. Because I wanted to get my diploma and get moving. Not that I didn't want to leave Crown Point too fast. But anyways, I started my career here, ended it here, my educational career, high school years, and I proceeded on into college, found myself obtaining my degree, 2 degrees in environmental engineering and environmental studies, proceeded on into receiving my master's degree, landed a really good job with missile systems, really enjoyed that. Returned back to Windrock, became the federal programs director there, overseeing a huge budget there, which I enjoyed, making staff accountable, because I feel like in a lot of public schools, at the end of the day, that's where it stems to, your administration. It's a reflection of who you are. If you're sending funds back, you're in trouble. That's a reflection of who the leader is at the end of the day. There should be funds that should never go back to the state or even to the federal government. That's the key point. And as a strong Navajo woman, culture, they're going to be starting school. I have one in high school. I have 4 kids. So with that in mind, when I look at my kids and then I look at the district here, especially with Impact Aid funds, we're the biggest tribe in the nation. Impact Aid funds should be direct funded from Washington, D.C. There is no reason why funding should stem and be equalized into the state of New Mexico. So one of the things that I would urge the school board is reach out to all the chapters, obtain chapter resolutions for all the chapters requesting, not just the school board supporting resolution, but go to our council. I've been bugging our council delegates to get to the legislature. We vote for those people to get there. But this is going to be political suicide if we don't get it done. But with Windrock School District, I know they were receiving, because they're direct funded, approximately 12 to 14 million on average a year. And I know that Gallup McKinley, being as big as you are, you don't get the funds that you deserve to be getting, because those funds come from our kids. Every one of them is what determines the millions of dollars that are generated onto the Navajo reservation. But again, we have to keep in mind that those funds have to ensure that a majority of it should support the Navajo, the kids on the reservation. I'm not nitpicking of Gallup being in the city there, but you're dependent on bonds there, there's taxes there. I see everywhere throughout the state, there's nice swimming pools and everything. My son's at Tohatchi High School, and I've been raising Cain about a scoreboard there, and they're being put on a facilities list. And I had to tell the principal, why are we fundraising for this? We have no business fundraising. Where's your facilities plan? Where's your capital improvement plan? There is so many issues that need to be addressed in every one of the schools, but it stems from your administration. It starts from your superintendent, your associate superintendent. It starts with your facilities. It starts with your transportation and identifying your needs and identifying your capital improvement project. Because if you don't have that, then you don't have a plan, and that's why funds are going back. Did I exceed my 5 minutes yet? Okay. Well, anyways, I could go on and on in regards to federal funds as far as education. I never thought I'd find myself to be in the field of education, but I did find myself there, and I realized how passionate I was going to be in the field of education. But I realized one of the key points in being in the field of education, and especially being at the administrative level, and this is probably going to hurt a few administrators, but at the top level, that is where it is the most important. It's going to make or break a system. I'll tell you that right now. If you have teachers saying they don't have supplies in their classrooms, that is not their fault. If you have teachers saying they don't have their curriculum maps or their designs not there or they're not implementing whatever or technology's not there, that is not their fault. It's the people pushing the paper. It's the purchase requisitions. It's the plans. It's your school-wide plans. It's your school improvement system. And that's only on the academia side. You haven't even looked on the support system side of the whole district. So those are both sides. When you capitalize on both of them and you do have a plan in place, those things are crucial. And if you really want to wake up at the end in the morning and you know that you're going to go out there and hit the ground running, then you better have your ducks in a row, and you better make sure that as a principal, you are going to look at that little kid to say, when he or she gets on the bus in the morning, do they have a well-equipped bus? 34, I used to, hour and a half from Coyote Canyon all the way here. Sometimes I would have to catch a ride. Hour and a half, sometimes an hour. Okay, time's up. All right, but in conclusion, because I was unaware that I had fellow community members who are running, and I would really, at this time, would like to decline becoming a school board member because I would like to offer my support to Shudden, Ms. Sandra Jeff. So at this time, thank you for giving me the opportunity, and I submitted my paperwork, but there's too many of us running, and I know that she's well qualified in doing this as well. I know I am, but I can be a very good parent, parental outreach from my end. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Janice Yazzie. Next candidate, we have Sandra Jeff. Okay, Sandra, can you wait? I'm sorry, we had Frida. I'm sorry, Frida first, and then that's what Joan has. So.
Good afternoon or good evening, everyone. Can you hear me? Board members, Mr. Gepetti, and community members from Crown Point, Standing Rock, Coyote Canyon, and probably Vicente. I don't know if anyone's here, you'll probably tell. Right there. My name is Frida Joe, and I'm from Standing Rock. I actually grew up here in Crown Point. I was born and raised here, and I graduated from Crown Point High School. My husband is here with me, Jimson Joe, and my sister, Ethelene Morgan. And we all live at Standing Rock. Like I said, I graduated from Crown Point High School. I have a bachelor's degree in business administration. Right now I'm working with Namur Technical University. I'm the coordinator for the dual credit program there. And my plans are I'm ushering a board for the Twitty plan, and my Ch's are the Trubashna Usher plan, and my Nellas are Kiamani. And a little bit of background about me is my parents ran several businesses here in Crown Point. And we had a really interesting childhood, my sisters and my brother. I'm the oldest of 5 children. My parents are Wilson and Helen Morgan. Both of them are no longer with us. My dad passed in December of 2014. But he was a very energetic man. He had a military background, a very strong military background, and he only had an 8th grade education. And many of you probably remember him. I really admired my dad because even with the amount of the limited education he had, he was very smart. He was a very good example to me and my brothers and my sisters about how to be honest, how to be ethical, and how to treat others. And I think it was his dishonesty, or not his dishonesty, but his honesty and his willingness to help his Navajo people that was probably one of his downfalls. Because when he had his businesses, he would extend credit to a lot of people out of the kindness of his heart. I remember one day him telling me to help my brother deliver a load of gasoline to a family that didn't have any. And I reminded my dad, you know, they didn't pay their bill this month. And he says, yes, I know, but they need to have fuel to cook their turkey in. And I'm really privileged that I have parents like that. The reason why I submitted my name, I guess I should tell, is because my husband and I have 3 children, and 2 of our 3 children graduated from Crown Point High. Our middle son, whose birthday is today, graduated from New Mexico Military Institute, which is a really excellent school, and one that I wish was available to our children out here. And then we have 4 grandchildren. The youngest was just born in June, the latter part of June. Our oldest granddaughter graduated from Crown Point High School just this past spring, and she's now entering college. But we found ourselves in a situation where my granddaughters lost their mother, and that was what prompted me to retire from the school district. And we found ourselves raising our granddaughters, our 3 grandchildren, and that's what got us back involved into the school district. And through that, despite the fact that we had already raised 3 children in school, saw some of the same situations in our high school that probably were even worse than when I went to school there. At Crown Point High, when we went to school there, we had a band, we had a choir, we had home ec, we had FFA, we had Future Teachers of America. I mean, we had a really wonderful experience in high school. But now, as a dual credit coordinator for Navajo Tech, I'm finding that our high school students right now don't have enough electives, even enough electives, to fulfill their requirements. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam President. Ms. Joe, I'm a grandfather too, and raising grandkids that like you're doing is very hard. I have a problem with my grandkids leaving Gallup. Are your grandkids living here in town, in Crown Point right now?
We live out at Standing Rock.
I'm not familiar with Standing Rock, isn't it?
Standing Rock is about 22 miles west of Crown Point.
West of Crown Point?
Yes.
Towards Comanche?
Towards Coyote Canyon, yes, and maybe Tohatchee as well.
Okay. Your second child, third child, where does he go to school at?
Our third child is our daughter, and she lives in Salt Lake City.
Okay.
She graduated from Crown Point High in 2002.
So all your three children have graduated already?
Two of our three children.
And you said one came from New Mexico Tech, one's in...
The middle son chose to go to school at New Mexico Military Institute in Rockwell.
Down in Rockwell. Is he still down there?
No, he's in his 30s now. Today's his birthday, so I think he's about 34.
Okay, so you're raising your grandkids
Yes.
down in Standing Rock. Thank you. What is your philosophy on education with the handicapped personnel? And if the person that are handicapped, meaning mentally, physically, do we have enough programs here in McKinley County to operate those?
I never had the experience of raising a child with any disability, but my first-hand experience with anyone with a disability was probably from my dad, who was blind, and probably for myself when I broke my ankle for a short period of time. And I found, that many of our facilities are not designed to accommodate individuals with disabilities. And even with programs within the school district, our gifted students are classified in the special ed department. And my sister here, Ethelene, has two daughters who have engineering degrees. One of them works in Santa Fe, the other works in Albuquerque. And we found, and even my granddaughter, that there are limited programs that we have in the school system to support our gifted students. We don't have enough teachers that are qualified to help them.
My last question is back to our Impact Day. You're maybe familiar with the ongoing lawsuits that we have going with our Zoom to sue the state for more Impact Day. Are you aware of that?
Yes.
Do you think we need to continue this in order to get more funds back to us?
I think so. I'm not totally familiar with the Impact Aid formula, but just listening to the question that was presented to Mr. Long, I'm kind of wondering if there's a part in that formula that takes into consideration the poverty level of this area. We have a high poverty level in our communities and high unemployment that contributes to the poverty. And so with that, despite the fact that we have a huge enrollment of Native American children in this area, I think that that should be a part of that formula as well.
My last question, thank you very much, Ms. Joe, is do you think the Native American language should continue being taught in the school, and why isn't it being taught at home or with the grandparents?
Well, back to how my parents raised us. I don't speak Navajo, and I understand it. I understand it because I kind of taught myself when I used to work for Navajo Community College. My parents had this belief that learning Navajo would interfere in our education. which I don't really agree with because my husband is bilingual. In fact, he teaches Navajo. And he speaks it, he writes it, and I mean, he's fluent. And I've not seen him, seen that happen with him as far as interfering in his education. But I respect the way my parents raised our children, their children. And in actuality, I really believe that I think teaching your children Navajo belongs at home. But if schools can deliver the English language at school, then I support it as well.
Thank you very much. That's very nice questions and answers. Appreciate it.
Good evening. I have the same three-part question, and the third one you somewhat addressed, but you may want to say something more. The first part was how can the schools or the district increase family and parent involvement? And the second was how can we improve the academic performance of Navajo students? And a side comment I didn't make was we clearly have bright Navajo students, and we have some who do very well, but we know that when you disaggregate our test scores, the district Navajo students end up scoring low on standardized tests. And the third one is how can the district help to revitalize Navajo language?
I hope I remember all those three, but if I don't remember.
The first one was the parent involvement.
Okay. And actually, I'm really passionate about the first two questions, the parent involvement issue. Ever since our children started school, we've tried to be very involved parents. And it was easy. It's easy at first when your children are small, they're in Head Start. Our children went to school at St. I Community School, and it was easy there. But as our children grew older and as they progressed in terms of grades, they went from the advanced grades, I saw very few parents. It was kind of nice when you would have the same parents, you move up with the same parents, and you have this little group. But then as they got older, that group started to filter out. And then at the high school level, you were lucky if you saw parents there. And it's a sad fact that people say, the only way to bring parents is if you have food. I'm a firm believer in parent involvement, that your children need to know that you support them. And it's a tough issue. It's a challenge for many of us. And I think, I remember my husband and I both served on the school board when we were when our children were small. And one of the things that was recommended was that we need to train our parents, provide workshops for them, help them. We have many of our grandparents who are raising our children, and some of them don't have the academic background that's needed to support them. So I think we have to try whatever we can. And the second part was?
Second one is how to improve, strengthen the academic performance of Navajo students.
Okay, that's another passion of mine. Working with Navajo Technical University, I work with the high school students. And it's really hard to see students coming in after they've taken the placement test. And they've just been told that they didn't perform well and they need to take remedial courses. And so it's disappointing, but from my experience as a parent and as a grandparent, I think there are a lot of things we can do to improve those test scores. We can hire quality teachers, we can train our teachers, we can provide more parent involvement opportunities, and we can offer more courses that students are interested in. I mentioned that Crown Point High doesn't have enough electives for our students to graduate with. To my knowledge, the only elective they have right now is a welding class. you know, and I think we need to. Our granddaughter was an honor student, and she didn't need to go to school all day last semester. So she went half a day, and then she took classes at NTU in the afternoon just to come up with some of those electives. And then the last one.
Third, you touched on already, but you may want to answer this about how we can, as school district and schools, help revitalize Navajo language. And for the community's sake, I'm sure there are areas in the Crown Point area where the language is pretty strong, but we know that even the statistics coming out of Navajo Nation are scary to me in terms of the small number of kids who are still growing up fluent in Navajo. So that's why I'm asking.
I think it really touches me when I see a little child talking fluent Navajo, you know, and I support it. If we can offer it in the schools, then I think we need to do it. But when it comes down to it, I believe it belongs in the home.
My question, I want to go back to the Navajo language and culture. First off, I'll ask, you're aware that we do have an MOU with the state and the Navajo Nation, which requires us to teach Navajo language and culture. And if you know, so your thought on that as to whether or not our district is doing a good job with that.
Okay, my knowledge about the Navajo language teachers, I'm going to address your question from that point, is that they have to take a test that's been approved and designed by the Navajo Nation, and it's been approved by the Public Ed Department. And so you could have a teacher that doesn't have a bachelor's degree teaching Navajo language. And the Public Ed Department will give you a license to teach that. But at NTU, we require at least some college hours in Navajo language. And I think from that perspective, if we up the requirements, and I think maybe that will support our Navajo language program in the school. Our granddaughters have taken Navajo language. But sadly, they took it when they were in, I don't know, I guess it was in the lower grades, and then they forgot it. And so when they went back to high school to pick it up, it was hard for them.
Okay, so to answer the question of, do you think the district right now is doing a good job with this program?
Well, I don't want to offend anybody, but I think that more could be done. More could be done, and more could be done in terms of culture. Because when you look at, if your child's going to go to college, that's one of the requirements that they're going to have. You know, and if they don't have that, they're going to have to take it in college as well. Or any foreign language. I don't know if most universities would accept Navajo as a foreign language.
Okay, I'd also like to ask you a question on dual credit. What do you think are the benefits of working with our local universities and colleges with dual credit?
Well, our world is becoming more challenging wherever we go. You know, our children are carrying around the cell phones, the laptops, tablets, and you know, even if you buy a car, your vehicle is going to have a lot of computerized gadgets on it. My son, who was majoring in law, decided he was going to take a break and instead took some automotive mechanics classes at UNM and found that it wasn't easy because most people think that students who are not doing well academically, you know, most likely will enroll in auto mechanics classes. But he found that you have to have good writing skills, and mathematics. And I think that's where dual credit kind of comes in, where it gives more of awareness to the student about what they need to do to become at that level where they can succeed academically. A lot of them become discouraged. I see a lot of our high school students, some that just graduated, come back and they're lost. They don't know what to do. They can't go back to school because they didn't perform academically. That could be a number of things: support, preparation, and that's what I like to do as the dual credit coordinator, is to try to help those students become more aware of what they need to do so they can be successful.
My question will be the same that I asked before. What would your recommendations be on our legislative priorities for the district?
Well, I always hear roads being a priority. And living in a rural area and having granddaughters that have to walk to the bus if they're old enough, it's really challenging, especially if parents work or even if grandparents work. And some days, you know, I really like the system where the school has this, can call you now, you know, that, and let you know that they're not going to pick up kids out on the rural roads off the highway. But we need to fix that problem. We need to help our students. And I'm kind of wondering if that's affecting attendance as well, because students are not being able to get transportation to the highway to meet the bus. But I think that would be my legislative priority.
And my next question is the issues that happened here at Crown Point High School. As I stated earlier, were very upsetting. And what is, again, your recommendation to give our superintendent and the board to help in this process of healing?
Well, we talked about transparency with Mr. Long's interview, and I think transparency goes both ways at the administrative level with the superintendent staff and as a board. But part of the problem with what happened at Crown Point, I think, is attributed to the fact that there was no community involvement or parent involvement in the decision of who the principal was going to be. He was placed there. And I think if you want to have more community input, have more parent involvement, you need to involve the community in that process as well. And I believe we have the same situation here at Crown Point Elementary, where Mr. Oates back there is leaving us, sadly. And we just hear rumors about who is going to be the new principal here. And I don't think we need to have the rumors. I think we need to be open with our community.
Thank you very much, Kat. Ms. Sandra Jeff?
School board members, former state representative Sandra Jeff. It's good to be here with each and every one of you. So there's a lot of you that are related to me. And it's such an honor to be here with each and every one of you. And I just chose to put it and submit my name because I was a former state representative serving District 5 and served it for 6 years. Delegates in Washington, D.C., such as Udall and such as Pierce. I do work bipartisan. I've always worked with both the Republicans, the Democrats. I work with our Navajo Nation leaders, starting with our Navajo Nation president, vice president, county delegates, and I also work with Dodi. So I do have extensive knowledge with the various programs, and I'm originally from here. I'm from Crown Point, New Mexico, born and raised. Graduated from Crown Point High School, just like what my sister said, Cheryl. I am a public school product, so when they say that I don't know much about public schools, I have a lot of knowledge in public school because I graduated from Crown Point High School. And I have 3 children. I have a stepson who's 32, and then I have my daughter who's with me here, and then I have my son who's 16 years old. My parents are also originally from here. I have an older sister sitting in the back, and we all graduated from Crown Point High School, my siblings and I. So we know the community people, we know the community, we know because of the transportation issue that we were having issues with to have My feelings with the board at that time was they took action, and I feel that they need to continue to really do that outreach to the community people, to ensure that their voices are heard, and to take those necessary action because they represent the voters within their districts.
What are your plans for the Church Rock community with our new school? Do you support the new school and the new principal out there that we have?
I do support the school there at Church Rock. For the students, for their sake, because it's about the students.
And my last question is, like I asked all the others, is the impact aid. Well, you're familiar with that as a senator and legislature. What are your feelings about McKinley County getting only a certain percentage, a very low percentage of our federal land that we have diligently having to give back to the state?
That's a question that I've been dealing with ever since I was a legislator. I did sponsor legislation. I wanted to do a study on the impact aid, and I've also have really lobbied with PED and worked with, at that time, Designated Secretary Scandera, to try to ensure that we get our full share of the funding, because we're only getting 25% of that funding, and that money belongs to our district. And there's a lot of scrutiny that I have dealt with because I was the lone ranger out there by myself defending our district.
What year did you graduate from UNM?
I did not graduate from UNM. I have been taking classes there at UNM.
Okay, that's my question there, because it just says on your resume that there's an education but no degree. And I just, what's your degree into right now?
I'm trying to get my bachelor's degree in sociology. You're welcome.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Same three. You would please share your thoughts on, it's not that I can't think of other questions, but I think these three are important. The first one was, again, how can we, at the district level or school level, increase parent involvement or engagement? And secondly, how can we help strengthen the academic performance of Navajo students? And third, how can we help revitalize Navajo language?
Okay, your first question is, we have Title I parent involvement. I think that with parent involvement, when we were having the three closures were taking place for the mid-schools, I, along with one of school board members, we put together a meeting that took place here at the Crown Point High School, Crown Point, and then on to Tohatchee, as well as Navajo Pine. And I really got the parents involved. And I think that town hall meetings really need to take place. I don't know if a lot of you recall that out there in the audience, we used to have town hall meetings a long time ago. And I think we need to bring that back, because we need to really involve our parents. In order for our children to succeed, our parents really need to be engaged and need to be involved. And I know there's a lot of single mothers that are out there, a lot of single fathers, and also grandparents that are raising their children or their grandkids. And so we really need to have these town hall meetings. We have Title I funding, and I think that it can work. I don't think it can work. It'll work. And your second question?
Academic performance, strengthening the academic performance of our Navajo students.
For the academic, we have the Indian Education Act that I've also been working with the state. I think that it's watered down. We need to really put some strong language in there and to put more funding into that because it's a weak legislation. I've been it has been very disappointing. I've been a strong advocate so that we can ensure that we put funding within the Indian education, and then to also work and collaborate again with stakeholders, with the Navajo Nation, with the Dodi, with the JON, with the parents that are under the Indian education. And so by doing so, and collaborating and bringing stakeholders together, as well as our superintendent, as well as our board members, I think we can ensure that we can better the system.
Thank you. And the third one was about efforts to revitalize Navajo language.
Efforts to revitalize Navajo language. As you know, we had 100,000 that was reverted back to the Navajo Nation under the JON program. As you know, I've been listening to the school board meetings online, and so I've been really keeping up with all that has taken place. And it's very unfortunate that that kind of funding has been reverted back. We do need to ensure that we have the right individuals that are in there so that they can help institute to make sure that these programs or funding isn't reverted back, because it's a full responsibility that falls on our superintendent, unfortunately. And so we need to make sure that we have the right people in those programs so that they can ensure that that money is expended rather than having it returned back to either really with the federal, because those are federal funds that stakeholders in Navajo Nation.
Okay, I'll just ask you, how important do you think our IDC committee, how important do you think their role is within our school district?
I really think that they're the individuals that uphold IDC. They are the strong advocates for the program because they're really familiar and they do all the legwork within the school systems. And they know what is going on within the school. And so I really feel that they are a priority and they are needed.
Thank you, Sandra. My question again is, what would you recommend for us as a board and as the school district, a legislative priority for the district?
Serving as a former state representative for 6 years, I've been a strong advocate for the Gallup McKinley County School. I have also introduced legislation. I'm also secured funding for the Gallup McKinley County School, like transportation. Again, I help funding that was secured for this school as well as Church Rock. I even stopped the budget from being passed, the state budget, because we have been forgotten and wanted to ensure that they put funding in for our district. I've also supported the above the line, below the line initiatives, and I kind of want to explain that. Above the line is the governor's initiatives. As you know, K through 3 programs have been taking place during the summertime. And so I kind of got it mixed up. I apologize. I have to refresh my memory. And so those fundings were being used and it never affected the equalization initiative. And so by securing those kind of funds and helping our children from K to 3 for the reading initiatives, I was a very strong advocate in supporting that. And also with above the line, which our district had their fair share, and I think that we could secure more funding with above and below the line. And I think those need to be changed too, because there are grants that are out there under the state and under PED, and I think we could secure some of those funding, such as Central Consolidated School. And another one, I apologize, another one that I did was transportation. I also drew a legislation where I was really concerned about the bridges. There's a lot of old bridges for school bus routes, and I think that we need to do some research on these bridges, because we want to know, they wanted to know how much it would cost to build new bridges, because it is so needed, just like what my sister said. You know, we're having a hard time during the winter time, and I helped make sure that we had these small buses that went across to pick up these students because of the big weight of the huge buses that go through those bridges. And so I really work with our legislators to really do that study on a lot of these bridges within Gallup McKinley County schools. So I have been very vocal, and I have really advocated on behalf of Gallup McKinley County School.
Thank you. And my last question, the issues that happened here at Crumwood High School, what will your recommendations be to help us, superintendent, to help that process of healing?
Well, I graduated from Crown Point High School, and it really left a black eye. It really hurt the community people, it hurt the parents, and even the students. Discrimination is alive and well. And I think that with what happened here, I think in that process, I think there needs to be more that needs to be done. A lot of counseling needs to take place, because I know that there's bullying that has taken place during this discrimination that was ongoing. And so again, I think the responsibility lies on the superintendent. And I feel that as school board members, and one particular who represents District 2, should have really came out and worked with the families, and worked with the communities and the teachers, and to really ensure that that would never happen again. And so I'm a very strong advocate when it comes to our students, our children, our teachers, the staff, and the faculty too.
Thank you very much, Kat.
Thank you.
Thank you again, Kadeshni, to all of you guys that came up and submitted your names. Tyson, I'm sorry, thank you for that reminder. Tyson, okay, thank you. Again, even to Tyson, thank you for all of you guys submitting your names. It really means a lot to the board. I just want to mention to the candidates that this is a job, a dedication of volunteering. I don't know what you guys hear out there, but there's no, we don't get no stipends for board meetings. We don't get mileage for board meetings. So those kind of things that I just want to put out there for you guys to know that you know, that's one thing that we're very we do a lot of volunteering for a lot of our board meetings and our work sessions and our special meetings like this one. We are very fortunate to have the administration provide rides when needed. If we need a ride, they'll help us get to meetings if we need a ride. So thank you for that. We'll go ahead and move on to approval of District 2 board member replacement on Gallup McKinley County Board of Education. This is an action item, and I am now going to open it up to nominations. Board members? Yes, we do have only 3 candidates. We have Charles Long, Frida Joe and Sandra Jeff.
Madam President, I'd just like to say a few words, first of all, to the candidates. Your office that you're going to be holding will be only good for 6 months. You'll have to refile for election. Now, I'd like to see the voters of this district vote for the candidates rather than us four. We had 5 good candidates that were here that spoke up. But your office is going to be up for voting in February of 17. So you're only going to be here again for only a few months. And your impact on us will help us a lot. And like I say, I'd like to have the voters rather than us four choose. Just like Ms. Mangalito said, that the District 2, I'm in District 4, and Mr. Hewin is in District 5. And we all three will be up for re-election in that time period. Again, we do not get salary, we only get thank yous.
Lynn, you have a nomination?
No, I have a comment if I can.
Okay.
I'm going to sound like a politician a little bit here, but I want to concur and support what Mr. Medini was always saying, because I think the awkward thing about this for me is choosing among people that I generally don't know. And so hopefully come January, the communities are going to know their choices better than we do as a board, at least in my case. Because I look and I see people with experience, I see people with education, that, you know, there's some strong choices here, and it makes it difficult and sort of a cop-out to say that in one way, because you have to make the choice. But, you know, I have never met Mr. Wong, I've never met Sandra Jeff, even though I certainly know her name. I've met Frida, and, you know, I want a fuller knowledge to make this important choice. And so we do what we can, and we'll see if we come to an agreement. But the optimistic thing is that it's not that long before the community can vote, and the person who gets chosen can elect to run again for this position. The others who are not chosen, if they choose, can run also, and then it can be laid out for people to look at a little longer, a longer time frame, and a little closer. And so I just say it is an important thing, and that's where, you know, it's this rhetoric we say, but it's true. Education is important, and the kids are important, and the community is important, and that's why we want that involvement, parent and community involvement. And I think as a board, we're looking at ways to strengthen that. That's why that question was there. But one of those involvements comes at voting time. And so I'm just saying this is not an easy choice. This is the one meeting I've said I'm going to be glad when this one is over because we can only choose one. Thank you for understanding that.
I just would like to thank all of you that have submitted your interest in becoming a replacement for Titus Nez. You know, even if we can get up here and say it's going to only be for a 6-month period, you know, we still have a district that needs to be represented. We can't leave that and not have constituents and people not being represented. And with school coming around the corner here, I'm pretty sure we're going to have some very important issues that are going to be coming up and need to be voted on. And we all know, the 4 of us up here, by going to our the Mexico School Board Association meetings, it's very important to have a 5-member board. So therefore, you know, I think that, you know, even though we do have a tough job tonight, you know, I really think it's for the best that we do get the 5 to fifth person, for that person to represent District 2 and to have also input from the district that they're going to represent. Thank you.
So again, once again, board members, nominations for District 2 School Board Representative.
Madam Chair,
Mr. Manini.
thank you very much. I'd like to nominate a person who has the background knowledge of the Navajo Nation, who knows what's going on in Window Rock, who's been there, and who's been in McKinley County representing us. I nominate Mr. Charles Long as our next board member.
Thank you, Mr. Manini. Can I please have roll call?
Mr. Heenan?
With another comment in terms of our procedure, we need to come up with, I believe, with at least 3 to select a person. And so I don't know quite how the cycle will go here, but I do think this person does need to represent the people of the District 2. And that may be knowledge of education, that's important, but it's also judgment and ability to work constructively, not only with other board members, but with the community to form those things, those goals that we want. And I will vote yes for Mr. Long at this point.
Mr. Mitchell?
I'll vote no.
Ms. Manuelito?
No. Board members, I would like to make a nomination of Sandra Jeff. Roll call. Sorry.
Mr. Manini?
No.
Mr. Heenan?
Yes.
Mr. Mitchell?
I think that, with Sandra Jeff having represented Church Rock, being as a legislator, as well as the surrounding area that District 2 covers, I will vote yes.
Thank you, board members. I would like to now, if there's no more nominations, close nominations. Mrs. Sandra Jeff, congratulations, you are now our District 2 representative. Board members, can I have a motion to adjourn?
Why do they always pick on me? They always pick on me. I got the seniority, I guess. And I move this meeting be adjourned.
Thank you, Mr. Manini. Roll call. Yes.